Hello, everybody. This is Mike from the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. My wife Beth and I would like to invite you to join us each week as we examine life at the intersection of marriage, family, careers, and ministry. Through 28 years of ministry, 26 years of marriage, 23 years of professional careers, and 21 years of being parents to 3 kids, our fun and honest discussions promise to have something for everyone. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. This is Mike, and I am going solo again this week. But before you turn off your streaming devices, I promise I have good stories. I have a good reason why Beth is not here, and it actually is a pretty hectic, pretty crazy story, and I'll get into that in just a few moments, but I just want to say it's good to be back with you guys. I've had a pretty eventful week personally on my own part before I get into Beth and the kids and everything we have going on there. My big thing is I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan and got to see Pearl Jam twice last year. Josh and I went and saw them out in Missoula, Montana, and then my buddy Luke and I went and saw them in Wrigley Field. Both times we had pit tickets. And so to get the pit tickets, you got to be in the 10 Club, which is the what they call the Pearl Jam fan club. And you pay, I don't know how much it is, $20 a year or whatever. And you're in it and you get special items occasionally or discounts or whatever, but you get first come on the tickets. And so you can put in whenever they do a concert, tour, you can put in for tickets. And then they just randomly select who gets tickets and where you get them. So there's people that have been in the 10 Club for literally 30 years. And, they try every year to go to every concert if they can, whenever they're on tour. And sometimes they get seats. Sometimes they get pit tickets, which is the golden ticket right down front. Sometimes they get nothing. And so we've been very fortunate. Last year, the 2 concerts we went to, I had pit tickets. So we were about 3 or 4 people deep from the stage both times. And then they announced they were doing a spring tour to I don't know how many. I think maybe they went to 4 or 5 cities and they did 1 or 2 shows in each city, but they announced they were coming to Raleigh, North Carolina. So they have not been to North Carolina since 2013. And they came to Charlotte, and that was my first Pearl Jam concert. They were supposed to have come in like 2016, I think, but then that's when North Carolina had the big bathroom debacle and, people were all up in arms, and Pearl Jam canceled their concert in boycott of the bathroom bill here in North Carolina. And they haven't been back since. So, of course, I put in for tickets for both nights, hoping I would get at least one. Well, I got both. And as fate would have it, I had pit tickets again to both shows. So the last 4 Pearl Jam concerts I've been to, I've been in the pit right there at the stage. And so Sunday night, I took my buddy Doug. You've heard us talk about Doug, great friend of ours. Him and I went. It was his first Pearl Jam concert, and I'd say he got a little spoiled. We were about 2 people back from the stage. We were so close. There was moments when Eddie Vedder was so close to us, him and I could have fist bumped if it was initiated. And then Tuesday night, I went with Josh, our youngest. Him and I went and got in the pit again and got almost in the exact same space Doug and I did. So, I leave those concerts and I'm like, that'll probably be my last one. And then I'll announce another tour and I'll try to get tickets. And, my thing now is once you've been in the pit, especially 4 times in a row, there's no going back. So I don't ever see myself sitting in a seat. So if I got seat tickets, I would be thankful, but I would resell them to someone who would go. And then, if I got pit tickets, we'll see. I would more than likely go because it is an experience. I never got to experience, traveling with Fish or the Grateful Dead. And, they have these big followings. And Pearl Jam is like that on a little bit lesser level. So I bet the first 50 people in line all know each other. They've all been to so many shows. And there was a lady on Sunday night who they recognized her. It was her 100th Pearl Jam show. And then on Tuesday night, they recognized a gentleman. It was his 100th Pearl Jam show. So, they have everything from first timers to 100th timers, which is insane to me. I mean, this band, 34 years they've been around. They're on my Mount Rushmore of bands, and definitely on the Mount Rushmore of grunge bands. You got them, Nirvana, Soundgarden. To me, those are the top three. And the fourth, I don't know. Yes, Beth, and she would say Stone Temple Pilots. I always felt like they were kind of Temu Pearl Jam. But, Stone Temple Pilots was pretty good. They might come in fourth. Some might say Alice in Chains. I was never an Alice in Chains fan, but definitely Pearl Jam, Nirvana, and Soundgarden. And really, if you think about kind of the big four famous grunge singers, Eddie Vedder, Kurt Cobain, Scott Weiland, and God, I can't believe I'm blanking right now, and I love him. Lead singer for Soundgarden. Like, Eddie's the only one who has survived. Like, all the other three are dead, either by Chris Cornell. So, Chris, Kirk, who knows? Suicide definitely for Chris Cornell. Kurt, we don't know. I love a good conspiracy, and I definitely fall into the camp that there was some shady stuff that I believe probably happened, and it may or may not have been domestic violence that ended Kurt Cobain's life, but who knows, but then, you got him, and it's Scott Weiland, just drug overdose, and so Eddie Vedder, he's survived, and God bless him. And the band is great. It's the original band that's been around. I mean, Matt Cameron's the only one that's really jumped in somewhat newer, and he's newer by like 30 years, or whatever. The band's been around 34. So this is a band that has stuck together, that is has a huge following. Both shows were sold out, dedicated fan base, and it was a blast to see Pearl Jam. Not once, but twice this past week. The other cool thing that I'm doing in my life, the house that we live in, we moved in here 16 years next month. And there's a bonus room over the garage. And when we moved in here, that was going to be our office. And office / bonus room. So, we had plans of putting our office furniture in here and having a little mini office at the house, but also a library of sorts. We've got bookcases in here. We have a little entertainment center with a TV and a love seat, just what you would think a bonus room would be. Well, it didn't take long before it became a playroom, and it just got covered in kids' toys. And so we've had train tables and Lego tables and Barbie houses and kids games and puzzles and you name it. And it's been here. And, and that's what it was for most of those 16 years, as it was a playroom. And then with the kids moving back and forth from college and such over the last 18 months, 2 years, it became kind of like a catch-all. It became the junk drawer of our house. It just, everything that we didn't really want to put away, didn't have time to put away, didn't know where it should go, we just threw it in this room. And it was so bad, you literally could not even walk through this room. Like I had to cut a path from the door to my office. And even my office desk was covered in stuff, where Maria would sit at my desk and do art, or she had a sewing machine set up on my office desk where she was making stuff. And I've got paint on this. I mean, it's just this office desk has been through it. And so now they're gone, which is what I'm going to get into in just a moment while Beth's not here. But Jacob and Maria are out of the house for the summer, living far away. And I took this as a time to reclaim this room And I started out in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it a bonus room again. And so I started, setting it up like a bonus room. And I went over to an acquaintance house. I'm a comic book collector. And so I've collected comics since I was a young kid. And I had some baseball, football cards and stuff, thousands and thousands that I had when I was young and whatnot, teenager, early 20s. And they've been in boxes. And so I decided I was going to get rid of them. So I put them up on Marketplace for sale. And an acquaintance of mine who I've never met in person, but we were Facebook friends through this weird connection, and has a lot of the same interests I do, a little bit older than me. He's into sports cards. And so he messaged me and he was like, yeah, I'm interested in your sports cards. And, would you want to do any trading? And I was like, I'm really wanting to get rid of all my sports cards and just focus on my comics. And he said, well, I've got some comics. And so he said, tell me what you're looking for. My big three right now is Spider-Man, G.I. Joe, and Transformers. And so he said, I've got that. And so anyway, I loaded up. It ended up being a rough count around 20,000 sports cards. Football, basketball, baseball, a few hockey, but not many. It was probably half of it baseball and the other half football and basketball. And so I loaded all those up in my car, went over to his house, and unloaded them in his garage, and then went through, and he gave me some really nice stuff, some great comics. And so I have that. But the point of the story is this. He was like, I've got to show you, like, no one appreciates this. He's like, so I love finding a friend that appreciates this. He's like, I got to show you my 2 rooms. So he took me into they have like a bottom basement room that is finished. That's kind of his man cave. It was unbelievable. He had, I don't even know how many, I'm going to guess 100 comics framed. And these are old comics, and these are key issues. And I mean, just, oh my goodness, like thousands and thousands of dollars of comics just hanging on his wall. It was gorgeous. It was unbelievable. Comics I'd never seen before. I didn't even know were out there. He had one hanging on his wall that was an X-Men comic. Let me show you. X-Men, let's see, what is it? X-Men 40. X-Men 40. It's X-Men meets Frankenstein. And so it was, obviously X-Men is really, really old. And so it was an unbelievable cover. And I came home and found it on eBay and got me a copy. And so I have it. I'm going to hang it on my wall. But but it was amazing. It was like a museum. And then he takes me upstairs to his office because he works from home. And his office is just floor to ceiling, wall to wall, just memorabilia. Comic book stuff, baseball cards, music. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I came home and I was inspired. I'm like, dang, like, forget bonus room. Like, I've got a lot of junk. Like, I have a lot of stuff that is sitting in crates in those plastic tubs in our attic or in my garage. When Beth and I first got married, the house we lived in was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, little 1,200 square foot house. And one of the rooms was our office, but we called it my Spider-Man room because I had everything in there was Spider-Man. Like, I had all of this stuff. And back in those days, I was a youth pastor. And so anytime my youth were out somewhere and they saw something Spider-Man, they would buy it. And so I still have in those plastic tubs, like, unopened, and granted, you wouldn't want to eat it now, but Spider-Man candies and Spider-Man cotton candy and Spider-Man Hot Wheel cars and Spider-Man balloons. I mean, just any little knickknack they could find, they would always buy it and bring it to me, and it was kind of cool. So I've got a whole treasure trove full of that. But anyway, I got home and I'm like, forget the bonus. Like, I'm going to make this my man cave. I'm going to relive my youth. And so that's what I've been doing the past few days is I have boxed up a lot of stuff. I've boxed up a lot of books and pictures and things that have been in this room for a really long time. And Beth is out of the state and she has no idea I've done all this, but so we'll see what happens when she gets back next week, how she feels about it. But it is, man, it is looking good. It is looking so good. I've got Spider-Man comics up on my walls. I've got some superhero art. I've got pro wrestling stuff. I went last night and dug out my plastic bin out of the attic with all my old G.I. Joe toys from, early 80s and mid 80s. And I've got those set up. I mean, it feels like a big kid's room. Like you walk in and you're like, oh yeah, this guy grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, and I kept everything. And it's fun. And so it is a cool room right now. And, what I always dreamt of having. And now I finally have it. It just took getting rid of our two of our three kids. So, all right. So where is Beth? That's what we need to talk about right now. This is where the story happens. And to go ahead and lay some foundation. Maria, as we've talked about, Maria is a Disney fanatic. She was able to do the Disney College program last year where she went and worked for Disney. She was there from January through August, and she worked at Epcot. And she came back and went to school at UNC School of the Arts and reapplied this year for the Disney College Alumni Program. It's where alumni get to come back. You work during the summer. They give you a little bit better job, that kind of thing. And so her and one of her good friends that she had met down there applied. They both got accepted. They both are working at Hollywood Studios, and Maria is working and she would kill me because I can't remember the name of it, but it's Star Wars Land, whatever that is, I forgot what they call it, but she's working in Star Wars Land. And so that's where she's going to be. So she's thrilled to death. Jacob, our oldest, is just finished his junior year at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. Jacob is a biology major and really didn't know what he wanted to do with that. He's always been fascinated with nature, loves nature, and as a kid, always loved birds. And he would just read bird books. It was odd. Like, he very rarely read any fiction. He would just sit there and read these like bird encyclopedia books and loved them. And it kind of rubbed off on Josh, our youngest. Josh was the same way, except Josh would read reptile, amphibian books and fish books. And so both of them collectively are just a wealth of nature knowledge. And so Jacob wanted to do something biology. Didn't know what he wanted to do. Took a class this past spring that really fascinated him. It was dealing with birds, and found out that there was internships available across the country and where you could work, nature centers, animal preserves, just whatever, And so he put in a bunch. He put in like 25 applications and didn't hear back from hardly any. He heard back from one immediately that was like, yes, we want you. We want to hire you. But that one paid nothing and gave you no housing. So of course they're wanting anything they can get, any warm body. All the rest had some type of one or the other. They either pay or they would give you free housing. And then a few select ones would pay and give you housing. But obviously those are going to be the most competitive. And there was one in South Carolina. That was his number one. It was an Audubon Society internship, working with the South Carolina Audubon, working just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. And he's going to be would be working in some forest and swamps and, marshland, and then going out and doing coastal stuff. Just studying birds, tagging birds, working in a nature center, just all kinds of stuff. And that was his number one. And he applied and they did an interview, and lo and behold, he got the job. So he was the only intern they hired out of the whole country. So that's where we're at. Maria is now in Florida, and Jacob is in South Carolina. So how did we get there? This is the crazy story. And this is why Well, Beth was going to take Maria down anyway, but this is kind of what our week is. And this is why we say that, hey, are you still there? Is life at the intersection of marriage and family and careers and ministry. It all has collided in a four-way. Everybody ran the stop signs and at a four-way stop and just collided over the last couple of weeks. And it's just a hot mess. So when Jacob went off to college the first time, he had a car, he hit a deer, the car was totaled, he was given a check for the car. And so Jacob was like, well, what kind of car can I get? I was like, you can get anything you want. And he said, even like a Mustang? I was like, if you want a Mustang and you can find one for the amount of this check, go for it. Well, he did. He found him one and he loved that car. And that's what he drove his freshman year of college. And then he decides to transfer, and he transfers up to Boone. And if you've ever been to Boone, North Carolina, it's in western North Carolina, very mountainy, lots of winter weather, not optimal for a Mustang, but he still thought he would give it a try. So his sophomore year, when he transferred in, he was a sophomore, he took the Mustang, and then as soon as the first inkling of bad weather hit, he realized that was not a good idea. So he brought the Mustang home. He had saved up some money, and he went ahead and dipped in that money and bought a Toyota 4Runner, just an old one. And he he sold his Mustang and kind of replenished that money. And so he drove the 4Runner. That lasted through the winter, winter, I don't know, 23 to 24, whatever. And then kind of on. And then last summer, he was just like, I kind of miss my Mustang. And so I was like, you need, like, the 4Runner is what you need in Boone. And you can't tell a 20-year-old nothing, But he was like, nah, I know what I'm doing. So he's like, I'm going to sell the 4Runner. Well, we decided we would buy the 4Runner from him, mainly because Josh was going to be turning 16 pretty soon. And Josh needed a car. And the 4Runner is a good car. It's a Toyota. It'll last forever, hopefully, But it is old. It's a 2003. It has 260,000 miles. I mean, it's not, there's nothing, nobody's going to look at this vehicle and be like, oh yeah, I want that. But it's a great beater for a first car. And so we were like, that's fine. Jacob, we'll just buy it from Jacob. Josh can drive it when he turns 16. Life is good. So we buy the 4Runner. So now we own the 4Runner. Jacob buys him a new Mustang and takes it up to college last fall, start of his junior year. Again, bad weather hits, and he's like, much like Joe Bluth on Arrested Development, I've made a huge mistake. And so he comes back and he was like, can I please have the 4Runner for the winter? My car can't make it. All right. So we let him take the 4Runner. He leaves the Mustang at our house, and he drives the 4Runner throughout the winter. And then this spring he comes back, gives us back the 4Runner. He takes his Mustang back up to school. Everything is fine. Well, during the course of this, Beth decides, she gets it in her head that the 4Runner is not going to be safe enough for Josh. That it's too old, it's too big, it has too many miles. What if it breaks down? I mean, all these things that I guess moms worry about. And so I was like, fine, we will sell the 4Runner and just take that money and buy Josh something else that you think is safer. So a couple of weeks ago, I put the 4Runner up for sale on the Facebook Marketplace. And then this is like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I immediately start getting people messaging me. They want to come look at it. Toyota 4Runners are very popular. We priced it to sell. And so we were just waiting. So I kind of had some people lined up for the weekend, to come take a look at it. And then Friday happens. Friday, Maria calls me Friday afternoon, and she's talking. She had been at school. She came home, did a few things, was having to go back to school to have a meeting. School of the Arts is only about 20 minutes from our house, fortunately. And so she was driving back to school. She had me on the phone. We were the next day was record store day. which is the first Saturday in May. So May, no, it wouldn't have been the first Saturday in May. It must have been the end of April. So anyway, she's talking to me about record store day and what she's going to get. And all of a sudden I hear Maria say, "Oh no." And then there's a crash and there's dead silence. Much like this. So I'm like, Maria, Maria, Maria. I'm screaming, Maria. And then she gets back on the phone. Dad. I was like, yeah, are you okay? What happened? I was just in a car accident. So Maria has me on the phone when she's in an accident. It was every parent's scariest nightmare. I mean, it's just crazy. And so I said, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. Is the other person in the car okay? I can't tell, but I think so. All right. How's the car? It's bad. Okay. Whose fault was it? It was mine. Maria was just on her way to school and just yapping away to Dad and wasn't paying attention, and a light turned red and she saw it too late and went to stop, and traffic had already started kind of coming through the intersection. And so she kind of T-boned a lady's car, the front end. And so it's, so I have her on the phone. I'm trying to talk her down. She's starting to get upset. People are coming over, checking on her. The other person they're checking on, she seems fine. And if there was going to be an accident, it was the best kind. No airbags were deployed in any vehicle. Nobody was hurt. It was just, a moment of just not paying attention, by a 19-year-old driver. And so I said, well, let me hang up. Let me call Mom and let her know. So I hang up from her. I call Beth. Beth answers. As soon as she answers, she said, I can't talk. Maria's been in an accident. And I was like, dang, how did Maria call her that quickly? And I said, I know. I was on the phone with her. And she said, well, I'm right here at it. And I was like, what? Well, come to find out later, Beth's parents were in town having a very early dinner with, a relative or a friend or somebody. And Beth was on her way to a book club. And so she decided to swing by the restaurant and see her parents. And it was her uncle. That's what it was. She wanted to swing by, see her parents, see her uncle, and then head over to book club. So she does that. She leaves, and she's driving down this little cut-through road that she never drives down. She says she can't even remember the last time she drove down this road. And as she was approaching the intersection, she said, oh, there's been an accident up there. And then she says, oh, that car looks like Maria's. What? That car is Maria's. So it's just bizarre. Just, I don't know. 1 in a million. I mean, it's just nuts. Maria was on the phone with me when it happened. Beth pulled up on it right after it happened, just seconds after it happened. So, anyway, we'll fast forward. Maria's car has been totaled. And so I figured it had been, and it was messed up pretty good. The other car was totaled. It don't take much. She just had like an old Jeep Patriot. It wasn't worth hardly anything anyway. And it didn't take much to total it. So that was that. So now Maria's without a car. Well, Maria was planning on taking that Jeep to Florida with her. And that's what she did last summer. She was going to do that again this summer. Well, now she doesn't have a vehicle. So then it became, what do we do for a vehicle? And we decided we would give her the 4Runner. So I took the 4Runner off Marketplace, messaged everyone and said, sorry, it's not for sale anymore. Maria was going to get the 4Runner, and that's what she was going to drive down to Florida. I didn't know if it would make it to Florida. Like I said, it has 260,000 miles. The dashboard is lit up with lights. There's the check engine light and all kinds of stuff on. I've been told it's all emissions-based sensors and things. And because it's so old, they don't check for that anymore. But it runs great. I mean, if there was no lights on, you would think it's a brand new car the way it runs. So I took it by the mechanic and said, just go over it. Our daughter's going to drive it to Florida. Just tell me what you think. And so they kept it, drove it, looked it over, called me the next day, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with this vehicle. They're like, we would drive it to Florida. And they're like, we feel, we can't guarantee, but it's solid. So felt good about that. So Maria goes ahead, starts decorating that car for her, putting in her little knickknacks and stuff, putting on her Disney magnets all over the back of it and whatnot. So that's the plan. So then this past Saturday is Jacob's big move-in day. So he was going to move down to South Carolina and obviously take his Mustang, and Beth was going to follow behind him in our Subaru and just have it packed up, with his stuff. And he was going to keep his Mustang. He was going to drive it down there this summer. They get down to South Carolina, and where he's living at is extremely remote. Beth said the driveway it might be 1.5 miles long, she said. She said and it's all that like sand hill dirt. If you've ever been to the low country of South Carolina, if you've ever been eastern North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, it's not beach sand. It's just this like gray kind of sand. That it's not gravel. It's just dirt. And, they both were like, yeah, this car is not going to make it up and down this road. And there's nothing on the road outside of going, you go past the nature center and then you drive 1.5 miles down this driveway, and then there's the house Jacob's going to be living in. And so even the guy was like, man, I don't know if that car's going to make it this summer. And he was like, my little car gets stuck sometimes. So then we went into kind of a little bit of a panic mode. All right, what's Jacob going to do for a car? And Jacob's like, I'll just take the 4Runner back. And we're like, well, we were going to give your sister the 4Runner to drive. Well, if we give him the 4Runner, what is she going to drive? And so it became pretty stressful. This all happened on Saturday. And Maria was leaving Wednesday to drive to Florida. So we had a very quick turnaround trying to figure out what to do. What happened was Beth left the Subaru with Jacob. She drove his Mustang back home. So then we had to decide what to do with Maria. I really didn't want to give her our Subaru. It's the newest car we have, the nicest car we have. It's a 2019 Outback. So it's not like we're not, rolling in a 2025. I mean, it's 6 years old, but it's a good car. We love it. And I just didn't want to send it down there. Obviously she wasn't going to take the Mustang. And all that was left, unfortunately, Beth has a Jeep Wrangler, and it's a little 2-door Jeep Wrangler. Maria has been drooling over that car since Beth got it. And as fate worked out, that's what she got. So we packed that car as much as we could. She obviously had to trim down on some things, but they packed up that Jeep Wrangler, and Wednesday morning, Beth and Maria left to drive to Florida, and they drove, the 12 hours or whatever, 11 hours from our house to Disney, and in the Jeep. And it's, if you've ever ridden in a Jeep, Jeeps are fun to drive around in short distances. It's not the best vehicle to take on a road trip. It is what it is. It's a Jeep Wrangler. It's made for fun, not for family travel. So that's it. That's kind of the craziness that's going on in our house. It's the kids, their careers have taken them to Florida and South Carolina this summer. The car stuff has just been nuts. Just trying to figure that out. I didn't get a chance. I couldn't take the kids to South Carolina or Florida. So, Josh was here, and I had Pearl Jam tickets. All this happened after the ticket stuff, and things were planned or whatnot. And they didn't need me anyway, but I'll end up, I'm sure, I'm already scheduled to help Maria move out in August, just me. And we did that last summer, and that was fun. And I'm sure I'll do the same thing with Jacob. But life is crazy. You just, there's never a dull moment. My friend Sam, one of the wisest things I have ever heard in my entire life said about parenting, and I've said this quote 1,000,000 times, and I always give him credit for it. He says, small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. And truer words have never been said. When your kids are young, you think what they're going through is hard, or the problems they have, or getting into stuff or whatnot. But man, these kids become adults, and it's a whole new ball game. and helping them navigate that. And, we could have been the parents that said, you know what, you're adults, you figure it out. But I don't know if that's good parenting. Like we didn't, we weren't being lawnmower parents, as we've talked about. We weren't mowing down the kids' problems. We were helping them navigate what's the best way to do this. Like, all right, what do you think needs to happen? And, how can we work this out? And so I feel good about the decisions. I think Beth is a little bit sad. Her Jeep's not here. But that's unfortunate. But anyway, that's kind of us. I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. The kids are away. Beth is in Florida. She's going to stay in Florida through the weekend with Maria. Maria officially moves in on Monday. And so Beth will help her get moved in. And then Beth is going to go see a friend for a couple of days that lives in Orlando that she went to college with. And then she'll come back, I don't know, next Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday. She goes back next Wednesday. And so she'll be gone from Wednesday to Wednesday. So she'll be back. And it's just me and Josh for a week. So we are bacheloring it. We've got some big stuff planned. WWE SmackDown is in Greensboro tonight. I'm recording this on Friday, so we're going to SmackDown. Josh and I are, just for fun. And then this weekend, we're heading down to Charlotte. The PGA Championship is in Charlotte at Quail Hollow, so we're going to go catch a little PGA golf. And Jacob's going to drive up and meet us, and we're just going to have a little guys' weekend. So, yeah, that's our life. So, and then, Beth has her job and I got my job, and there's still stuff going on. We've hired a new worship leader at church. She's Faith Marks is her name. She's on Spotify if y'all want to look her up. She's amazing. She's a pro, but she agreed to come and we hired her, and she starts this Sunday at our church, Re3 Church. And so she'll be leading worship. And I heard them practicing last night. They had band practice last night at church, and I was there in a meeting, and just the practice was just unbelievable. And so, yeah, things are happening. So anyway, that's it. Sorry to bore you with some long stories, but that's kind of all I got this week. I don't have Beth, so we don't have the banter. We don't have diving into her life, but I thought I was telling somebody about all that had been going on, and they were like, oh, you've got to talk about that on the podcast. Like, that's, life happens. And I don't know if there's anything to be learned from it other than you just got to be flexible. You got to support your kids no matter how old they are. Support them within reason and just be flexible. Life comes at you fast. And, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, but we've got it all worked out, and the kids are where they need to be, and they're healthy and they're happy. And I talked to Jacob last night, and he's having the most fun he's ever had. He is loving his first week of work. And so we couldn't be happier for him. And of course, Maria's going to be loving her time at Disney, working in Star Wars land. So if you're going to Disney, hit us up and I'll tell you where Maria is, and maybe you can stop by and say, hey. Other than that, guys, gals, everyone, have an amazing week. And hopefully Beth will be back next week and you won't have to listen to me babble on. But anyway, take it easy, and we'll talk to you soon.